Finding Treasure by Sanvi Manchri-Pragada. My game is targeted to prepare high school students taking French 1 get ready for a second semester final. This game will help them review the most important part of the final, conjugating verbs, both regular and irregular. Adding on, the game will test them on the meaning of each verb and the pronoun that goes along with it, like I, we, you, they, and more. The player will attempt 8 questions about conjugating French verbs, keeping in mind that they only have 4 lives. For every question answered incorrectly, the number of lives they have decreases until it gets to 0, where the game is over. On the other hand, if the player successfully answers all 8 questions with more than 0 lives, they have beat the French monster. The goal of the game is to beat the French monster by attempting all 8 questions before you're out of lives. In addition, I also have a high scores list to motivate all the players to try and beat their previous score. So this is a results panel that will be displayed when you complete all 8 questions with more than 0 lives. Well, this is a panel that will be displayed when you lose the game and don't have enough lives to keep going. I will now show you how my game is played. So first I compile my game in my terminal. This is the first panel shown. You can click Start. This is the instructions panel. You can go back if needed. If you go no, this is the name panel. You can't move on until you input something in both first and last name. So for example, if you need help, type in H, and then the list of hints will pop up in the terminal. So say you aren't that good at French and you don't know that much, so you get most of the questions wrong. Your lives continue to decrease as you play, as new questions pop up. This is the panel we saw before. This is the high scores panel. You can change the color of the border accordingly with the list of high scores displayed on the right. You can exit if you want, or play again if you want to as well. Now I'm going to display a block of code in my game data class. In this method, getHighScores, I read in a text file called highscores.txt that I assign to a string named filename. I initialize my scanner that I assigned to null, and I created my file named inputFile. Then I use the try-catch block to try and read in the file, and if it could not find it, print out the following message and exit. I also used a while loop to print out each name and score line by line to make it look more organized. Components and events. The first 2 components I used were JLabels and JTextFields in my namePanel.java class. I used the JLabels to inform the player of what they have to input in each box, and I used the JTextFields so the player could type in their first and last name that will later be saved and stored. The next 2 components I used were JButtons and a JScrollBar. The JButtons are activated by Action Listener, either exit the game or allow the player to play again. On the other hand, the JScrollBar is used to display the list of high scores. If the player scores 7 out of 8 questions or more correctly, their name will be added to the list. The last component I used was a JRadio button. I used 4 in my questions panel, acting as 4 multiple choice options for the player to press. They are only able to click 1 button at a time as well. Now I'm going to talk about all the events I used. The first 2 I used were Action Listener for my buttons and my JRadio buttons. Now I'm going to show you the code my action performed. This is the code, so if you click Submit, the correct answer will always turn green no matter what. If your selected answer is not the correct answer, your answer selected will turn red, as shown. After my 2 buttons, they will both call the reset or data.resetAll, turns it to true or false, and next panel will call the next primary panel. So the next 2 events I used were Key Listener in my questions panel and Mouse Listener in my high scores panel. For my Key Listener, if the player presses H, capital or lowercase, a list of hints will pop up in their terminal as shown. As for Mouse Listener, if the player presses around the border, the color will change multiple times accordingly. I'll now show you the methods I used to activate them. So I used key typed. If the user types in H or uppercase or lowercase, the following will print it to terminal. And then in my high scores panel, I used mouse released, mouse pressed, and mouse clicked. Change the color accordingly. Thank you.